I was probably as most young boys, playing on the streets, playing in local teams, representative teams as well. At times I'd play for the school in the morning, my youth club in the afternoon, and I'd still be playing with my mates until it went dark at night. So I was always constantly with a football under my arm or kicking about in the streets with my mates. And that's what we did in those days. It was there was always impromptu football matches organised, 15, 20 aside on the pitch where I used to live. And it was great fun. I always remember it with fondness. It was a time where you just went out and enjoyed the game of football. I was always a midfield player in school teams, representative teams, until I went to Man United. And I was there probably 6 months in, and I wasn't really progressing, if I'm honest. And probably as a last throw of the dice, Sid Owen, who was my youth team coach then, decided we were actually playing a Norwegian team. Remember it to this day. And he decided that he was going to play me up front. Just didn't really know what I was doing, but I ended up scoring 3 goals. And I think they took the view, well, he's not going to make it as a midfield player. Maybe we can persevere with him up front, and that's where it started, really. My first game debut was in the League Cup, and that was only as a consequence of I think it was Arthur Graham, who was actually had an upset stomach, shall we say, and wasn't able to play in the game. So I was just told minutes before the game I was going to be playing in the League Cup. From me, my own personal view was that, well, if I do get an opportunity, I've got to try and take it. And because you were never sure whether or not you were going to get another one. So I played in that game. Thankfully, I actually scored a winner, scored a goal rather, that allowed us to draw the game, that we won the replay. Didn't play particularly well, if I'm honest, but got the goal, got a few headlines and made an impact. And then I had to obviously build on that, because I'd got my foot in the door. There was a little bit of trust in me from the manager that he could see that I could be effective at that level he was playing me at. So from that point onwards, it was up to me to keep on building those performances. Well, I had 2 good years, broke into the team, scored goals, won Young Player of the Year award from the PFA. So I was in a good place, and then all of a sudden this opportunity was presented to me. The reality from my own personal point of view is that I didn't want to go. I was having a great time. I was playing in a good team, fantastic stadium, great fans. I was enjoying every minute of it. And then all of a sudden, because of the situation where maybe the club felt that I wanted to leave, or I was going to push to go, which wasn't the case really. And that miscommunication never allowed itself to be strong enough. Certainly from my point of view, I should have just come and said, listen, I'm having a great time here, I don't want to go. And that would have been the end of it. But I think there was a feeling maybe that because of the circumstances with my contracts, then I was likely to leave. So obviously the club had to protect themselves, and that's why they pushed to obviously have a fee that was representative of my value at that time. As a player, I was quite aggressive by all accounts. So transferring my natural game and how I'd got to the level I'd got to when I went over to Spain. When you do go to a new club, you want to impress, you want to score goals, which I was struggling to do. The build-up was a little bit slower than I was used to. I wasn't getting the quality of ball in terms of where I felt I could be most effective. And the refereeing of the games and my physicality was different. So I basically struggled, and in the end I was playing a type of game that wasn't really what I was about. It was a frustrating time, I have to say, because I knew I could show a lot more. It was a fantastic opportunity, and looking back on it now, it was an opportunity, unfortunately, I didn't take. I had the opportunity to come back. It's fair to say, if it hadn't been Man United that came back for me, I would have almost certainly have stayed at Bayern Munich. They just understood what was important to players and what players needed to be comfortable with, or things that needed to be put in place for a footballer to be able to perform on the pitch. And they had a real insight into that, and I was really impressed with Munich. And like I said, given the opportunity, and if it had been any other club other than United, I would have stayed there. Well, he picked me up. I think he took me for my medical, and we were just driving, talking about football. Clearly, he'd been there a year before, and I'd heard all about how he was quite strong, and he suffered no fools. He was prepared to be very, very strong in the dressing room as well. So I was okay with that. I was looking forward to that. He was obviously strong-willed. He understood exactly what was required at that time. United had been allowed maybe just to drift on the standards and maybe behaviours of players and people in and around the club weren't where they needed to be to allow them to be as successful as they were in the future. So he understood that clearly straight from the off, and clearly was going to do something about it. What he had was the total support of the chairman and the board of directors and the club as a whole, because they understood what he was doing in the background, and that was the key to it. They understood he was the best man for the job. It was going to take time. In that day and age, you got more time than you certainly would have done. There is obviously that question: would he have kept his job in this day and age? Probably not, if we're honest, because the platforms and social media and all the noise that surrounds football in these days, eventually, given that we weren't playing particularly well and had been getting on for 3 years without any success, and a club like United, then clearly he would have been under pressure a lot sooner. I think the club came together because people from the outside were trying to say, well, Fergie needs to go, his time's up, but the club was strong in that time. We've got a taste, obviously, of winning trophies, and I think that's important for a group of players, that you have that experience together, that you understand, you have a level of understanding of what it actually takes to get over the line and be able to lift a trophy. We had the disappointment, obviously, of missing out on the league title, and okay, we'd won an FA Cup, we'd won a Cup Winners' Cup, League Cup as well around that time, but still we hadn't won the league. As I said many times, the longer it took, and each season that went by without us winning the league, the pressure grew. So when we got so close in '92 and missed out again, there was that feeling, well, maybe it's not going to happen for us as a group. And I think that's where Sir Alex understood and was really strong and supportive of that group of players, because at that point he could very easily have ripped up that team and started again and brought another group together. But he had that trust in us. Clearly he needed other players, which he introduced, and obviously Eric coming to the club was the catalyst to bring it all together. But on occasions I think people forget that actually we weren't a bad team. Even before Eric, we were very close. But obviously Eric just gave us that extra little bit that allowed us to win it. We weren't a million miles away, but like, in fairness, I give him the credit that he deserves, because he just had that little sprinkling of stardust that we just lacked maybe, and his presence and his manner, not only on the field but off the field as well, and how he behaved in terms of his training, because he was first-rate trainer, always first out, last in, and that permeated right through the club. He'd be out there doing flicks and volleys, and we said, all right, we need to get involved in this. So senior players would join him, so the group became bigger, and then obviously the likes of Giggsy and Beckham and Scholes, they were watching all this, and they just came through, and they had that same mindset, in my view. From my point of view, he was the first player when I came back, first player in English football that I played with that would drift into spaces, whereas I was used to a strike partner being predominantly in my day it was 4-4-2, and the two strikers, one came short, the other one went long, or vice versa, and you just played off each other. Eric wasn't like that. He was constantly looking for spaces where he felt he could impact, and if he did get the ball in those spaces, in between the lines, as we call it now, he was very adept at that. But he'd mix his game up as well. Sometimes he would come up alongside me, other times he'd be dropped 20, 30 yards off me, which for me was a little bit difficult, because I'm thinking, well, I'm supposed to be playing with the partner up front, but he was very, very clever, understood the game really, really well, and understood how he could impact the game in the best way. And I felt, just watching him and understanding what he was trying to do, that enabled me to add something to my own game as well. So I'll always be grateful for that insight into the game itself. I went to Chelsea exactly the right time. They were a mid-table Premier League club at that point, but they signed Ruud Gullit. The next year it was Vialli and Zola turned up, and we talk about timing and luck and decisions that you make that shape your career. And my decision to leave United at that stage was perfect, because that was the start of feeling the club that they wanted to get better. And I really enjoyed my time. I used to be a Chelsea fan, believe it or not. And if you recall, Chelsea hadn't won a trophy before that first FA Cup win for a similar period than United, with their journey to win the Premier League. So that resonated with me as well. So good times. I had a fantastic time there. Bounced around a few clubs after that. Southampton obviously was a difficult situation. I think I was part of the Great Escape when we were tailed off for a long time in that season. I think we got a draw in the first 10 games, and then we were obviously, it was an uphill battle from that point of view, but we were able to get ourselves out of it and kept them in the league. And then I went to Everton, short-term deal, and then big decision for me, really, because I was at a point in my career I'd never played in a lower league, and I didn't really want to break that. I felt it would be a personal thing for me if I could stay at the top level for the duration of my career. But I spoke to Graham, and I felt that I could help them. They were a good team. They had some really good young players, and we had a great first year, got up at the first attempt, and the second year, my last actual 90 minutes was at the Millennium Stadium in the League Cup final. So I'm forever grateful for that. I wasn't one of those players that from the age of 20, 25, I had the view that, okay, when I finish the game, I'm going to be a coach, I'm going to be a manager. That wasn't my mindset in those days. But you get to, I think, the time when I left United and went to Chelsea. I've been at United for so long, and it's always difficult when you're a player that's come through the ranks and you don't really understand your standing in the game until you actually leave. Whereas I've been at United so long. I went to Chelsea, and there was a lot of young players there that if I started talking, which I've talked more today than I ever did when I was at Chelsea probably, but when I did speak, I was conscious that young players were listening and hanging on my every word, just because they understood that I had more experience in the game and had won trophies, and they wanted to hear about it. And that was the first inkling where I felt, okay, I quite enjoy that part. I try to help the younger players to just have an understanding of what's required at the level we were playing at, and I really enjoyed that part. And that's when I started to do my badges and maybe think that my future was still going to be in the game when I finished playing.